Travison was only a few feet from the path when the Apache loomed in front of him, coming up the trail. Though many things raced through his mind, he stopped dead only a split second before throwing himself at the Apache. They closed, chest to chest, and Travison could smell the rankness of his body as they went over the rim and rolled down the path to land heavily against a tree stump. Travison lost his hold on the Indian, but landed on top, clawing for his throat. A saber-sharp pain cut through his back, and his nostrils filled with the dust and sharp and sweet smell. Sweat smell, not sweet smell. I can't read. The Apache's face was a straining blur below him, the neck muscles stretching like steel cords. He pulled one hand from the Apache's throat, clawed up a rock the size of his fist, and brought it down in the Indian's face in one sweeping motion, grinding through bone and flesh to drive the Indian's scream back down his throat. Wow. That wasn't even the most, compelling part of the story. That wasn't a spoiler, so don't worry. Well, hello, BookTube. Welcome to the inaugural hashtag Western Wednesday. It's a hashtag I'm taking over, where we read Westerns on Wednesdays and we talk about them. Hashtag Western Wednesday if you want to participate. Today we're talking about The Trail of the Apache by Elmore Leonard. I'm reading it in the Complete Western Stories of Elmore Leonard. If you would like your own copy, you can use my affiliate link to bookshop.org, where if you use it to purchase this book or any book, you can also book a no cost to yourself. I get a small commission. It's a win-win. Also, it's a great way to support the channel. Other ways to support the channel, like share, subscribe, all that stuff. And finally, there's timestamps down below if you don't like any parts of the video and you want to skip around. They're there for you. About Elmore Leonard. Elmore Leonard, born 1925, died 2013, began his career writing westerns in the 1950s, long before he became famous for his crime fiction. His early short stories and novels stood out for their gritty realism, sharp dialogue, and morally complex characters, qualities that would later define his entire body of work. Among his notable westerns is Hombre in 1961, Valdez's Coming in 1970, Gunsights in 1979. He also wrote short stories like 310 to Yuma and The Tall T that were adapted into Hollywood films. Leonard's westerns broke away from romanticized frontier myths, focusing instead on ordinary people caught in extraordinary conflicts where the line between hero and outlaw was never clear. And these works only modernized the Western genre, but also laid the frontier for Leonard's later success in this crime and suspense genres. His Westerns remain essential reading for anyone interested in how the genre evolved from pulp adventure to something sharper, leaner, and more human. Now, as you can tell, now, granted, I haven't read a ton of other Westerns, but that was probably the most graphic Western that I've read to date. So, yeah, we're in for a wild ride on this one. A spoiler-free synopsis of Trail of the Apache. It's one of Elmore Leonard's earliest Western stories, first published in 1951 in Argosy, which I think maybe was like a men's magazine, ? Originally titled Apache Agent. So, yeah, that's interesting. And I looked too. It doesn't appear that they're in the public domain. I would have a lot of the early Louis L'Amour's are in the public domain when they were published in magazines and stuff. So I'm not sure why his are not, but they still seem to be copyrighted, and I did not find anywhere that you could go really read this story for free, so don't do it. And I'm not, at least not in that, from any site that looked legit. So if you go looking for it, it's at your own risk. Do what you do. But this thing's dirt cheap. I think I bought it for Black Friday a couple years ago for $10 or something. It's not that expensive. It's not worth risking your private information from downloading a bad EPUB or something, Set in the Arizona Territory, it follows an Indian agent caught between government bureaucracy, frontier politics, and the rising tension with the Apache people. Rather than romanticizing the West, Leonard shows the harsh entities of broken promises, mistrust, and survival on both sides. What makes the story stand out is Leonard's trademark realism. His dialogue feels authentic, his characters morally complex, and the conflict rooted in humane choices rather than simple good versus evil. The lines are very blurred in this one. It's a lean, gritty tale that helped establish Leonard's reputation and paved the way for his later classics in both Western and crime fiction. And I'm just kind of hoping that that last part of it is correct. I think it is. I mean, he had an epic career. Now, I've talked a couple spoilers, so if you haven't read this and you're going to read it, just be aware that I'm going to kind of talk about kind of like my thoughts, but I'm going to kind of use some spoilers as examples. So let's get past this part. If you haven't read it yet, go read it. It was a banger. This story is far grittier and more detailed than any other westerns I've read. Leonard doesn't shy away from brutal imagery. For instance, the homestead scene where the woman is found scalped and the man burned alive after being hung upside down. Absolutely terrifying. Absolutely gruesome. Yeah, I've never read that in a Louis L'Amour. But what makes the story truly striking is that it's not a typical cowboys versus Indian tale where there's no clean line between the good guys and the bad guys. Typically, the good guys are the cowboys and the bad guys are the Indians, right? It's complicated. The land had belonged to the Apache for generations, yet the outsiders took it without respect. Promises were broken, trust was shattered, families were destroyed, and the once proud Apaches were expected just to accept their punishment as if it was deserved. Now, Leonard forces us to confront the justice and the basically the difficulties to cheer for Travison and his men. There's no clear winners in this. Some reflections I took away from this story. There's moral ambiguity. Leonard avoids clear heroes and villains. Travison, the Indian agent, tries to be fair but is trapped between a system built on exploitation. The Apaches resist not out of malice but because broken promises and survival. They what they were expected to basically accept as their life was just, it wasn't going to happen, right? And there's a critique of bureaucracy where the story highlights how government neglect and corruption fuels the conflict. Policies meant to manage the Apaches only deepen the mistrust and violence. And, how would you feel if, you had some outsiders come in and took your wife and your children, or your girlfriend and your children, or your dog who's laying on the heat vent because it's his favorite spot? You wouldn't be too happy either, and you likely would not want to do what that person says. You're not going to be willfully accepting of your circumstances. Also, cultural clash. Leonard portrays the frontier is a meeting ground of radically different worldviews. You have the settlers seeking land and profit. You have the Apaches defending dignity and autonomy. The clash is inevitable, and the empathy is absent. We came in, we took their stuff. We didn't care what they wanted. You're going to go over here and grow your corn and be quiet and do what you're told, while we're going to come in and basically rape and pillage your land. That's how it was going to be. The cycle of violence, the ending underscores the mistrust and betrayal, perpetuates violence, and Leonard suggests that without violence, peace is impossible. And you just know that the ending of the story is not the ending of the story. This is just one day in a huge, long, basically war, never-ending war, right? And then realism over myth. Unlike romanticized westerns, the story strips away the heroic, holy moly, tropes. It shows that the West is harsh, morally complex place where survival is often outweighed by ideals. And again, it just sucks. Well, what the white man did to the natives was wrong. Just straight up, came in and took their crap, and that's never right. So, yeah. Overall, this was one heck of a banger story. It's one heck of a way of starting off the complete Western short stories of Elmore Leonard. I can't wait to dive even deeper into this. It's, and this was, I think, his first short story. And for this to be the first one, and just know that he's going to hone his craft over the next 29 stories or however many it is, it's going to be a wild ride. And I am ready for it. I think that's it for this one, peeps. Let me know down below if you read this story. Did I get anything right? Did I get anything wrong? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And until next #Western Wednesday, I was going to say something completely cliche and embarrassing. I'm not going to do it. Cheers, peeps!